I don't normally make videos like this, but in light of all the news and current events that are happening right now, in light of a lot of the buzz and the static, I thought I would like to shine a little bit of light on the current situation, what's going on within pop culture, and what's going on as far as these current events that are happening right now. So this may be a new segment on my channel, but I'll probably would do it just when I feel the need to. So it's not necessarily something I'll do like every week or even every other week, but just when certain events come up and I want to kind of just shine a light, kind of provide my 2 cents, and of course using the astrology to explain what in the world is happening here. So of course in this episode we're going to be talking about Colin Kaepernick, the whole Colin Kaepernick saga, him taking a knee and his whole deal with Nike and how that's caused quite a bit of stir within our society. Yahoo! Welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters, to the Aquarian Adepts, my platform, our platform to become your spiritual server. And welcome to a bit of a pop culture video. We're going to be talking about the astrology about this event. And it's just kind of interesting. Now, normally I don't talk about things like this. Normally I don't get caught up in stuff like this. But, of course, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and all these different areas in the internet, there's been so much outrage, but also a lot of like comedy surrounding this too, sarcasm about this whole Nike deal. Now, if you don't already know, there was recently a Nike ad campaign that featured Colin Kaepernick, which was something along the lines of going for your dreams and stuff like that, even if it means losing everything. And this has caused a bit of uproar with people who aren't quite fond of Kaepernick, and you would see various people were essentially creating their own versions of the campaign. At first, it was more like people wanted to honor military veterans and stuff like that. And then it kind of took a turn toward a lot of these sarcastic posts. You'll see stuff like MLK, Mike Tyson, all other different kinds of people. There was a really funny one with Kevin Hart I saw earlier today on Facebook. Everyone's creating their own Nike ad campaigns. And now, of course, Nike has been receiving a bit of a hit from this, but I don't think the company will go under. I think they'll be okay. Obviously, some people were saying this is a publicity stunt. Some people are saying that they're just taking the temporary hit to increase their value. Whatever the case may be, people are certainly reacting to it. And I kind of wanted to look at the astrology for this, because I'm sitting here like, you know, this is very interesting that all of this is happening. I mean, it's not really a surprise that it's happening, but it's just like I wanted to kind of peel back the layers and look at the astrology for this whole Colin Kaepernick taking a knee saga, which, if you ask my personal opinion on this, I support him. I support anybody who stands for what they believe in. That includes the people who are, you know, not for his cause. That being said, I do feel like, especially with Venus and Libra right now, we are looking for some type of compromise, some type of way to balance things out, peace and harmony. But some people don't want peace and harmony. Some people just want people to see things the way that they see them. And of course, you've had all the videos and posts about people burning their Nikes and boycotting Nike, when really their target demographic isn't really, let's be honest, their target demographic isn't really the people who are, you know, the people who are outraged anyways, are enraged about what Nike's doing. They're not really Nike's target demographic. Let's just be honest about it. But nonetheless, they want to voice their opinion. And it's interesting how in this country, how we do have the freedom of speech. I'm talking about here in America. We have the freedom of speech. But it's like the moment you say something that I don't agree with, you're wrong. And it's like, it's weird. It's like freedom of speech unless you say something that I disagree with, and then you're wrong. It's Like, then you don't have the freedom to say that, because how dare you say that? How dare you take a knee when our veterans and these brave men and women have sacrificed their lives, have sacrificed spending time with their family to go and fight for this country. I'll be the first to admit that I'm rather a pacifist. I don't understand why we have war. I really don't. I'm all about promoting peace, love, and harmony. I'm all about promoting compassion. That being said, I do appreciate what these military men and women do. That being said, it seems like people are using this whole debacle, as a means to further their political agenda or to substantiate why they feel the way they feel. But as I said, I wanted to look at the astrology for this, to see what in the world is happening. What happened and how this all really began in the first place. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to show you a various number of charts. I'm going to show you the chart for the day where this all first got recognized. And then I'll show you Colin Kaepernick's birth chart. And then I'll kind of show you where things are right now. And then I'll even show you a little bit into the future and why I believe that Colin Kaepernick's, all his hard work, if it already hasn't paid off, it's going to pay off in a huge way. And he's going to achieve the success and victory that he's looking for or wanting. But let's dive into the charts. So this whole thing began a few weeks before this date, but on August 26th, 2016. This was during a preseason game. I believe it was the last preseason game of that year. And the San Francisco 49ers were facing off against the Green Bay Packers at Santa Clara. And Kaepernick decided to take a knee. A couple of his teammates actually joined him too. Now, this was not his first demonstration. He actually took a demonstration a few weeks earlier than the preseason game, which he didn't start in, but he sat on the bench. And one of his, I think a former Army person or a former military person who also played in the league reached out to him and was trying to give him a few pointers as far as like how to make this demonstration more respectable. And of course, Colin Kaepernick wanted to be as respectable as possible. I commend him for that. If you think about it, we take a knee for a lot of different things. Marriage proposals, take a knee, when you pray. So it's not like taking a knee is necessarily a disrespectful act. Yet, on this day, August 26, 2016, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, a lot of people thought he was disrespecting the flag. When really, he was just standing up for what he believed in. Ironically, he was standing for what he believed in by taking a knee. Because he felt like the flag did not really respect what was happening in this country. What is happening in this country? I think we all can agree that all of the social issues that we have, it's a travesty. Racial discrimination, sexual discrimination, religious discrimination. He was standing up for all that, and of course the police brutality. He was standing up by taking a knee and bringing light to a situation that we of course have been all very much so acquainted with, but took it to another level, of course. Let's look at the astrology for this day to see what happened and why people got so riled up about it. Because it's very, very, very quite interesting. Okay? So, this is the astrology right here for the day that Colin Kaepernick takes a stand by taking a knee. This was August 26, 2016, 7 p.m. This is Pacific Standard Time in Santa Clara, California. As you can see, we had the sun in Virgo. It's funny because the sun is in Virgo right now. We also have the North Node here in Virgo. Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury all conjunct in Virgo. And you have the South Node here, Neptune here in Pisces. Now, the reason why this day sticks out to me, and I know a lot of you, unless you follow astrology like I do, you probably won't understand what exactly you're looking at. So I'm going to break this down, and there was a lot of asteroids on here that I had to, so I had to delete them. So I wanted to make this as simple as possible. But let's just think about this. All right, the sun is in Virgo, so this is about cleaning up our, kind of like cleaning up our act, tidying up things, making sure that things are working. And what's interesting here is that we have this right here. This is the main thing right here. This energy right here. We have the planet of Saturn in Sagittarius, and we have Mars in Sagittarius, and we have Antares right here in the middle, and Aldebaran opposing this spot. Now, what does all this mean? What in the world does all this mean? Well, let's think about this. Saturn is the planet that naturally rules Capricorn energy, so it's about career, legacy, hard work, getting things done, hard decisions. And a lot of people, Saturn is considered a malefic in astrology, which means that it's not the easiest planet to deal with in astrology. That being said, there's great advancements that can come to one's life when they learn how to work with Saturn's energy efficiently and properly. When they learn how to make the hard decisions, when they learn how to put one step in front of the other and to climb this mountain, because this is Capricorn energy, which is represented by the sea goats. The fish that rose out of the sea, transformed into a goat, and climbed the mountain to the top, and it achieved their success. This is why, in many ways, Capricorns kind of represent business and politics. But as you can see, Saturn is in the sign of Sagittarius. And what is Sagittarius energy? Well, Sagittarius energy is our belief structure. Sagittarius energy is hope, joy. Sagittarius pulls back its arrow and finds its target and then aims for the future, that is Capricorn. The Capricorn is actually like walking that journey, but Sagittarius is hopeful that it can find a target and aims its arrow accordingly and then shoots its arrow. So we have the planet of hard decisions and the sign of belief. Not only that, but we have the planet Mars, which is the planet of action. In many ways, it's a planet of energy, action, and moving things forward, the personality, the ego. That's what Mars also represents. It's also the planet of war in the sign of Sagittarius, which means that as far as this area, a lot of people's egos and personalities were actually triggered by their belief, by their belief structure. People believe in the flag. People believed in these military veterans and that they should be respected. And they should be respected. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be respected. But I want you to also look at this. We have the fixed star, the fixed royal star Antares at 9 degrees of Sagittarius, smack in between. And really, quite frankly, if you look at the solar minute, we're just getting a little in there, but it's right on top of Saturn. Now, let's just read Antares real fast, okay? Antares, the rival of Mars, is a double star named from the bright red color of the primary and is the brightest star in Scorpius, the scorpion. It is associated with rashness and violence. Antares makes people tough, belligerent, and aggressive. It is an important star for military personnel and is said to confer strategic ability and courage if well connected. Its nature is Mars and Jupiter. So we actually have a star here, a fixed star, that, as you can see, it has the nature of Mars, and it's an important star for military personnel. It represents taking action, although it can be very rash, it can be very blunt, and quite frankly, very violent. And as it says, it's made people tough and belligerent. So naturally, people are going to respond in this way. Of the nature of Mars, and look where Mars is. It's right here, within a 2-degree orb of influence of this fixed star Antares. And Saturn is here. Now, here's something else that's cool about this. This is the day that Colin Kaepernick took a stand by taking a knee. Capricorn, which is Saturn energy, rules the knees. It actually rules the knees. Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. This is no coincidence. Now look at this. Here, we're going to get into some aspects here. So this whole little group right here, this whole little conjunction is Sagittarius, which has to do with our belief structure. And people just couldn't believe that someone would disrespect the flag like that. It went against their beliefs. They couldn't believe it. They got so enraged and angry. They tapped into that Mars energy, that Antares energy. It's funny how Antares, it even looks like an anti-Aries. But yet, they came together today. It's almost like they made a truce today. It's like, all right, we got to take this dude out. At least that's the way that people felt anyways. But look at this. This was not an easy energy to deal with. Why? Because this conjunction between Saturn, Antares, and Mars was squaring over to Neptune and Pisces. And the north and the south node, mind you. This has to do with the spirituality. So even though people beliefs were riled up and angered and poked and prodded, they were still making a square over to Neptune and the south node of spirituality, which means that people could get lost in their delusions. People can get lost because beliefs isn't necessarily spirituality. You can have self-limiting beliefs. You can believe in something that is actually not good for you. Now, I'm not saying that what the people who oppose Colin Kaepernick, I'm not saying that what they believed in was bad or delusional. All I'm saying is that this square was not the easiest energy to deal with. Squares are not easy energies. It's a strained aspect, but it's also an aspect that promotes growth, if you allow it to. Now, look, it also is, of course, squaring the North Node in Virgo, which Virgo represents reality. So people couldn't not believe that this was their reality. That's what the North Node. People couldn't believe that this was the reality, that someone actually had I will go ahead and say it, the testicular fortitude to take a knee during the national anthem of a professional football game. In many ways, you got to think that Mars rules sports as well. Mars rules sports. And the funny thing about this is that Pisces rules, and I know, and I'm just using this as like the names, because football really here should be called handball. That being said, Pisces does rule the feet in astrology, and of course it is squaring this spot. And if you really want to get into it, if you want to be technical and say that football is meant to be called handball, we do have Aldebaran, which is in Gemini, opposing all this energy, which is another planet. It's like, alright, it's a star, a fixed star. Aldebaran in Taurus is the follower of the Pleiades and the bright right eye of the bull. It is the brightest star in Taurus and of the nature of Mars. Another one of the nature of Mars. It is associated with public and military honors. So, honoring the military, of course, during the, the national anthem. And courage. It also can denote extraordinary energy and ambition. In conjunction with the malefics, it could bring danger and loss through water, by floods, natural disasters, drowning, etc., so forth. So another star that has to do with the military and honoring the military, but yet it's opposing this energy. And it's in Gemini. The moon was in Gemini as well. And as you can see, it's at the edge of Gemini coming into Cancer, which means that emotionally people were about to get riled up. That emotionally people were about to get really triggered. And Gemini rules the extremities. Gemini rules the arms, the fingers, the hands, which is the most used, of course, body part in football, which should be called handball. There's no coincidence that all of this was happening at the time that Kaepernick took a knee. It's completely supported, and it makes absolute sense. So that was the day that Kaepernick took a knee, August 26, 2016. Now, there's something else I want to talk about on that particular day. And it didn't show it in that chart, but as we all know, that what's kind of really riled this up recently is Nike, victory. It represents victory. And Nike is actually a goddess, right? In Greek mythology, which represents victory, which represents overcoming, right? So Nike is actually an asteroid that you can follow in astrology as well. And Nike at the time of that event was at 16 degrees of Scorpio. Now, what significance does that have? Well, I will show you here in just a moment. So the next chart I'm going to show you all is Colin Kaepernick's birth chart. Now, I know a lot of times with these celebrity birth charts that they might not necessarily be the most accurate, but upon looking at his birth chart and then just kind of running some aspects over it, very interesting, very just, this was his destiny. He was meant to do this. And it's really interesting to see how this all plays out and how some of the aspects are really kind of playing out this day. So I just, of course, want to show you his birth chart just to kind of give you a little bit of background information and even show you where the asteroid Nike was at the time of his birth, okay? So this is Colin Kaepernick's birth chart. Now, I know there's not really a lot of you probably wouldn't necessarily understand what's going on here, but let me just go ahead and say, he was born on November 3rd, 1987 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and this was approximately around 12:13 p.m., and that's going to be, I want to say it's Central Time. As you can see, the Sun is right here at 10 degrees of Scorpio, conjunct his Pluto at 9 degrees. His Moon was at 16 degrees of Aries, which means that emotionally, he is very passionate about his emotions. He's very passionate about what he feels, and this can make him a bit rash though, but at the same time, it makes him a rather very passionate individual that really can definitely become emotionally triggered if not careful. That being said, it is balanced by the fact that Mars is in Libra. Now, here's the ironic thing about this. Mars doesn't like to be in Libra. Mars would rather be in Aries. Mars doesn't, like I said, it's in its fall position. It's at detriment within Libra, so it doesn't like to be there. It'd rather be over in here Aries where it can actually act, and actually move things forward. Whereas in Libra, it's like it can't really take actions as fast and immediately. It has to work things out, has to balance things out. Things have to be in peace and harmony, which is amazing. I think that's actually perfect because he emotionally felt like he had to stand for something that he believed. He emotionally felt like he had to take a stand, but it's balanced by Mars being in Libra, which means that he took an action that he felt was necessary, but he sought to find compromise, peace, and balance within that. That's why he had the conversation with a former military personnel who was an NFL player or a former NFL player, I can't exactly remember, and they spoke about it, and they bounced ideas off of each other to make sure that the presentation, that his protest was as respectable and as peaceful as possible. He obviously meant no harm. And the interesting thing about this, if you want to really get into numerology, 1 plus 6 is 7, 1 plus 6 is 7. So 7 is represented by Pisces energy, which in many ways has to do with destiny. In many ways it has to do with spirituality. So he really did feel a calling to do this. And as I've said, Aries it rules sports in many ways, because if you really think about it, sports are a form of war. They really are actually a form of war, if you really think about it. Now, the other thing I want to kind of point out here is the fact that his North Node, which the North Node in astrology, if you're not familiar with it, it's based off of the nodes of the moon. So his North Node was here in Aries, which means that his South Node was here in Libra. His North Node in Aries at right here at the beginning is 1 degree, almost 2 degrees of Aries. This tells me that he was destined. He was obviously destined to play sports, that's for sure. But he was also destined to really make people. It's his personality. Like, his personality was destined to be put on center stage like this. It was. He was destined to do this. The North Node in Aries means that he was destined to take certain actions. He was destined to take certain actions that would put him center stage. And since his South Node, of course, which will put it in Libra, right, which is actually going to be falling in his 8th house, means that, with the South Node here in Libra, in the 8th house means that, certain people are definitely not going to understand it. Certain people are not going to want to compromise with it. But at the same time, this whole him taking this action that he felt was absolutely necessary, that he really felt called to do, was going to transform his life. It was going to transform his service. It was going to transform his relationships with people. It was going to transform his relationship. Now look at this. We have Nike here. Yeah, infamous Nike. The company that a lot of people, for some reason, oh god, that wasn't me. The company that a lot of people, wanted to boycott or want to boycott. It's here at 11 degrees of Capricorn. Now, why is this really significant? Why is this significant? Well, I'm going to show you all later. Now, at the current moment, currently today, Nike is around 5 to 6 degrees of Taurus, which is not close to, but it's kind of in about a 4-degree orb of the planet Uranus. Now, that's not really anything major, especially with these asteroids. You want to consider that, you want to make sure that the conjunction is as tight as possible. Also, we can see that his sun is in the 9th house, which means that he's going to illuminate his beliefs and what he believes in. Not only that, but he's going to transform also how people kind of view him, because this is the 9th house, so naturally ruled by Sagittarius. So people are going to perceive him based off of his beliefs, and people's perception of him are going to transform based off of his belief, because we have Pluto here conjuncting his sun, which is the planet of transformation, right? And it's interesting, too, that at the time of his birth, Saturn was in Sagittarius. And as you know, Saturn was in Sagittarius during his demonstration on August 26, 2018. And yeah, so this is his birth chart. And what we're going to do next is... Now, the last chart I'm going to show you all here, it's just kind of the energies over the past couple days and stuff, but then I'm also going to jump into the future and show you all. The other thing that I forgot to mention, though, with showing some of those charts, was that, like I said, Kaepernick has his asteroid Nike at 11 degrees of Capricorn in the 12th house. So the 12th house is the karmic house, it's the hidden zone, it's the house of spirituality. So he was destined to sign or to do this ad campaign with Nike. Now, I know what you guys are probably saying, what in the world does the asteroid have to do with the company? Well, everything is connected, and it's kind of like this whole quantum entanglement thing. Nike got their whole thing, their whole brand from victory, wanting to achieve victory and wanting to overcome. So that's how they're still connected. It's in his 12th house, which means that he was destined to do this, guys. He was destined to do this. But the other thing that I forgot to mention was that on the date of the main protest that became, August 26, 2016 was when he first got the publicity about it. Nike was actually at 16 degrees of Scorpio. Now, it's not really close to his sun. It's a 6-degree orb. But the interesting thing about it is that it does make an interesting aspect to his natal chart. It makes something called a quincunx to his moon in Aries, and also semi-sextiles his Mars in Libra. Now, what are these? These are considered minor aspects in astrology. The quincunx is what I like to call the awkward stare from across the room. These energies don't understand each other. They don't necessarily get along, and they're trying to understand each other, but generally they don't. It's awkward. It's like the awkward moment when you get into an elevator with someone else, unless you're just like a really cool person. Now, it was, like I said, it's in Scorpio, and it's making a quincunx over to his moon, which means that, you know, emotionally it might have been awkward for him. I can't say, because I'm not him, I'm not in his body or vessel, whatever like that. But at the same time, he was still trying to find some type of compromise and balance with it, because he probably knew that what he was doing was a rather big deal. He stood for what he believed in, and he said this was bigger than the NFL. This was bigger than football. It was bigger than the sport. There's more to this. So he wasn't necessarily concerned about that aspect. He wasn't necessarily concerned about how he might have felt, how it would affect, you know, the game of football. At least that's what I'm guessing. I can't quite say. Like I said, I'm not him. But it does make a semi-sextile over to his Mars in Libra, which means that he really felt a calling to do that. And a semi-sextile, it's planets that are separated, planets or energies are separated by 30 degrees. It's half of a sextile. A sextile is considered a positive aspect. So a semi-sextile is sort of like, kind of like this mini little positive aspect, where it's like they're wanting to come together and wanting to kind of, you know, understand each other. But it's sort of like, I think of semi-sextiles as like kind of like the first date or the second date, you know. So with them making that semi-sextile over to his Mars in Libra, was meaning that he was certainly, as far as trying to achieve victory and overcome, he was still kind of, you know, getting used to what he was doing. He was getting used to, you know, not necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily getting used to saying for what he believed in, but he was trying to find some type of balance and harmony with it. He wanted to achieve some victory for what he believed in, but ultimately for, you know, America, ultimately for all of the discriminations that he saw was prevalent. He wanted there to be victory here. He wanted there to be some type of change. He wanted there to be some type of harmony brought here, some type of balance for everyone. But not everyone necessarily understood it. Not necessarily understood it. Now, I'm going to just show you the astrology from the past few days, and then, like I said, I'm going to go into the future, and then we'll wrap up this video. Because I know it's getting a little bit longer than I wanted to. So this is the astrology for September 4th, which was Tuesday, of 2018. Now, as you can see, we do have the moon in Cancer, which means that people are going to get more emotional. They're going to be in their feelings and stuff, right? And it's opposing Saturn, which is retrograde in Capricorn, right? Now, this is interesting here because we do have Jupiter, interesting enough, which if you think about the collapsing of timelines and stuff like that, Jupiter is actually at 17 degrees of Scorpio, so it's within a 1 degree orb of where Nike was on August 26, 2016. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, good luck, fortune. So this was for him in many ways expanding victory, or expanding his purpose, expanding what he stood to believe in. We also have to consider the fact that his moon, or that the moon right here, was actually squaring his north node, and Chiron was on top of his north node. So he had, I mean, it's messed up because he's received death threats. A lot of people are really throwing a lot of hate at him, and I'm sure this is not the easiest time for him, but he still pushes through because he believes in his cause, right? He believes in his cause, and a lot of people do. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to actually move this forward to the end of the year because I think this is rather important. I'm going to move this to the 31st of the year. Now, I want you to look at this, okay? Mars is actually about to come into Aries, which means that it's about to conjunct his north node, which means that the actions that he's taken as far as his destiny, he's really going to be taking the next step as far as that goes. But we can see where the moon is in. The moon is in Scorpio, and he has his natal sun at 10 degrees of Scorpio. So the moon is actually going to conjunct his natal sun, which is a powerful alignment. And not only that, but it's actually going to make a sextile over to where his Nike was. I actually didn't even think about that. The fact that he has his Nike at 11 degrees Capricorn sextile his sun. But look where Saturn is. the planet of these hard decisions and stuff, which was in Sagittarius at the time, like I said, on August 26, 2016, as you saw. But now it's actually conjunct his Nike. And the sun is conjunct his Nike. And if you move this a day forward into the new year, bam, they're both at 11 degrees, conjunct his Nike. Look where Jupiter is. Jupiter is actually where Mars was at the time of him taking a knee that day on August 26, 2016. Jupiter is here now, which is actually going to sort of make this expansion on that energy in many ways, because timelines all exist on top of each other and through each other, whether you believe in that or not. And it's interesting how close his Pluto is actually coming to his ascendant. And if you move this, if you just continue to move this a little bit forward, you'll see that the moon's going to come over that spot, Saturn is still on top of his Nike, and Mars is actually conjuncting his north node. What does all this tell me? It tells me that he's going to achieve success, he's going to achieve his victory, and he's going to take the next step in his legacy. He's going to take the next step, like literally going into the new year. He is going to achieve success. All of his hard, because Saturn represents hard work, all of his hard work is going to pay off. It's going to be illuminated by the sun and the moon. If you even think about this even more, the moon, let's take this back a little bit. Hold on, let's take this back just a tad. And remember, Sagittarius represents belief structures. So as you can see, it's conjunct here. His Nike, because remember it was at 11 degrees. His north node is within a 1 degree orb of Mars. And the moon is on the galactic center point with Mercury at the edge. So literally as the moon crosses over Mercury, he's going to receive his downloads from the galactic center, from the universe, from God, from Spirit, on what to do next. What is the next step in his saga? So whether you like the guy or not, he achieved victory. Whether you like the guy or not, he achieved what he needed to do. And now he's going to take the next step in his evolution, regardless, like I said, if you like the dude or not. And here's the other thing. His midhaven was at 20 degrees of Scorpio. The midhaven is naturally represented by Capricorn energy. It's where the 10th house begins, and it rules purpose, legacy, career, drive, where you're going in life. Look where Pluto is. Pluto is at 20 degrees of Capricorn, sextiling his midhaven. His life is going to transform. His life is going to transform in a very powerful way the first week of the new year. In a very powerful way. What does all this mean, guys? It means that Kaepernick is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. Nike is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And there's a lot of outrage over it, and there's a lot of people on both sides. Really, he was trying to bring about harmony. He saw that there was discrimination in this country. He saw that there was obvious disparity within this country, and he wanted to bring it to light. And he was not the first one to do this, and he most certainly won't be the last to do this. I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to show you all the astrology for all this, for this whole Kaepernick saga, but how I believe that he has achieved victory, and he is absolutely the right and perfect candidate for this Nike ad campaign. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. I suppose that's your opinion. But at the same time, it's destined. It's guided by God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe, whatever you want to call it. I know some of you all might not want to accept that, but as the astrology shows, it is very much so destined. I support you, Kaepernick. I absolutely do. Ultimately, though, I support peace and harmony on the planet Earth. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure to share it with a friend. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this or any of my other content. And I will see you all on the next video.